Hi, welcome to the first ever podcast created by D3VB West. I'm Robert Rochelle. I'm the creator of D3VB West, and hope you do enjoy the site. There's a lot of written content, but we have yet to put up any kind of audio or video on the site, and this is our first attempt. So I hope you find it entertaining. I'm going to try and keep it short. Um, and kind of learn from this. Please provide any comments that you want. Right now, I think that we need to make it a little more lighter and probably improve the audio content that you're listening to. Uh, but we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Um, I hope to do more podcasts. I have in my mind at some point, maybe not this year, at some point, trying to get in touch with Ricky Nelson, who doesn't know this, but maybe he's watching. I don't know. And would love to try to do a podcast before and after the NCAA selections and kind of talk about who we think would be selected and then who the NCAA may have slighted in their selections. Right now, the NCAA doesn't come out and do interviews after the selection, so there's a lot of anger, a lot of people upset, a lot of people happy based on those selections, and maybe we can shed some light into why things went the way they did. Although sometimes I know Ricky and I are just exchanging emails going, what the heck just happened? For this podcast, however, what I wanted to do was kind of talk about the watch list. The watch list, which you can find on my site on the left hand side of the menu, is simply what I've come to call a running tally of the teams in the West region that I think can get Pool C bids. Pool C, if you don't know, is at large bids. So currently, the NCAA in Division III volleyball has 43 automatic qualifiers. They're called Pool A bids. There's been an influx of independent teams this year, and so we've gone from one to two Pool B bids, and that has meant a reduction in the Pool C at large bids from 20 down to 19 this year. Some discussion probably that the schools have kind of gotten smart and said we're tired of being in a conference where we only get one Pool A bid. What if we go independent? The independent teams traditionally in the last few years have not been that good. That's easy pickings. We can go pick up an NCAA bid or create another conference where maybe instead of being in the middle, we can be at the top, get an automatic qualifier, and the NCAA, we can get in the tournament each year. Regardless, maybe that's a topic for another podcast, but so the watch list I created last year, right around the time the West RAC came out with their rankings. The West RAC is responsible for creating a ranking. Actually, there's 8 RACs, and each region has their own RAC, and each one does a ranking based on who they believe are the best teams in the region. So the West RAC does the West region, and they are allowed to rank publicly 8 schools. It differs based on region. The larger regions can rank more, and that's kind of unfair, but maybe that's another podcast yet to come. So what I've tried to do last year was kind of anticipate the schools that were still in the mix, that still had the chance at the at-large bid. Because if you win your conference, hey, you get the bid. There's no mystery involved in that. You just perform on the court and you get the bid. Sometimes you do the best you can on the court and you don't get the conference championship, and you kind of rely on the NCAA coming through. So I used the watch list to kind of anticipate where each team was last year. Now this year I decided to do it right from the start. I don't have the data that the West RAC gets and that the NCAA ultimately supplies that relate to the NCAA criteria that allows you to get in, that they use to allow teams to get into the NCAA tournament. So what I want to do is kind of just look at the record, look at the teams that they played, the quality of the teams in the West, and then kind of look at the schedule that they're playing and see if they have a realistic chance to get the Pool C bid. Now, realistically, even after week 1, every single school in the West region has a chance at that bid. There's really nobody that's technically out of it. However, we've got 41 schools, and I would say that at least 3/4 of the schools, maybe right around 3/4 of the schools, are probably already out. they have to win their conference, or they just haven't shown enough, even in week one, that they're going to be a player for that bid. What I did is I put together a list of 14 schools, and I created the watch list. And I probably could have done more, and it probably will increase. We'll see about the results this week. I kind of slided the Northwest Conference a little bit. They have a lot of undefeated teams up there, but they really didn't play anybody this week, so it was really hard for me to put them in. On the flip side, I put Hardin-Simmons in there. Not really sure why I did that, and then didn't do the Northwest Conference. Not everything I do is planned out or thought out very well, so I apologize. But I've always had a soft spot for Hardin-Simmons, and they're in. Doesn't mean they'll stay in. Doesn't mean I won't add more Northwest schools. Doesn't mean that other schools and other conferences will get put in as well at some point. If they play well, they beat some teams, and we'll get them in there if I think they've got a chance at the at-large bid. So I will. It's a floating list. I will remove teams. I will add teams, and I'll do a little summary, and it's on the website if you want to read it just real quickly. That's the purpose of the watch list. The teams that I have on there, we'll kind of run through this real quick because I didn't want to make this a big podcast. This is kind of a test for me. Cal Lutheran, alphabetically, Cal Lutheran is on there. Cal Lutheran surprised me. They are a team, excuse me, forgot I had another printout that I wanted to see, so didn't feel like stopping the podcast. But Cal Lutheran is a team beginning of the year that I thought was going to struggle a little bit with their graduation losses that they had. And I was fortunate enough to be out at CMS watching the tournament, and Cal Lutheran was there, and I was able to catch a couple of their matches, and they looked good. They looked real good. Defensively, they looked real good. The setter made some nice plays. They kind of go in between a 5-1 and a 6-2, but they've got some nice hitters and some nice players, and they had some significant wins. And obviously, they would go on the watch list not just because they're 4-0, but because they beat a team like Johnson and Wales out of Rhode Island in 4 sets. They beat a team like Carthage, who's not hasn't been getting a lot of love from me personally. They're 2-2 right now, but they looked really good too, and they beat them in 4 sets. And then they were able to beat a Salisbury team, which I would pretty much dismiss out of hand. But Salisbury ended up beating Laverne. So they can't be that bad. So Cal Lutheran obviously is in. Chapman, the second team that I put in, they're 3-1. They also swept Salisbury. They ended up losing to I want to say Carthage. I just realized that I don't have it in my notes on my website, so I need to fix that. But I believe it was Carthage, and in 4 games, they I hope I'm not lying about that. They look good at times, and they just couldn't keep the runs going, and they would make a mistake here and there, and that's really kind of what killed them in the Carthage game. Now Southwestern went out there and played them on Tuesday, and Carthage just took them out. They swept them, and that's going to be a recurring theme, unfortunately, for Southwestern. If you're not familiar with it, my daughter went to Southwestern. I love the Pirates of Southwestern, and I have a huge bias, which helps them at times and hurts them at times because I have no problems picking on them if they do poorly, and praising them when they do well. But unfortunately, Southwestern's in a little bit of a down year, but we'll talk about them in a second. So Chapman playing pretty well, have a couple of a really impressive freshmen. Check the website out. I've talked about them a couple of times. CMS, Claremont Mudd Scripps, third one on my list, 3-1. A lot of injuries. I put that on my website as well, but they were able to eke out a 5-set win against Carthage. They beat Southwestern. They lost a heartbreak 5-setter to Johnson and Wales. So even though they were missing about 3 of their starters, they still are getting results. And they're going to be in Trinity this weekend. They're going to play Trinity and UT Dallas and a couple other teams. And that's going to be pretty fun to watch. They may even play UT Tyler, which is another interesting story, and a good team this year that had a great first weekend. Colorado College 4-0. They played at home. They beat St. Thomas in 4 sets. Played some other teams. They swept them all. Colorado found out later that they didn't have Jordan Mullen, who's their just maybe one of the best, if not the best, outside hitter in the West region. She didn't play. She's got a minor injury. She should be back, but the depth of Colorado is just crazy, just crazy. Hardin Simmons is in there. They went 4-0. They didn't really beat anyone of note, but go Cowgirls. Laverne, 2-2. I went ahead and put them in there. They do have the Southwestern victory, which I noticed that I didn't put down. So look at that. I am double checking my work as we do the podcast. They did get swept by Salisbury, and that was really kind of surprising to me. So either Laverne just had a hiccup, but this was at Laverne, and they couldn't get a game off of Salisbury, which is kind of surprising. So it's going to be really interesting to see how good Salisbury is moving forward. And then they went 4 sets with Johnson and Wales. If you're interested, Johnson and Wales, I got to see the Cal Lutheran game. I would have liked to have seen another game from them, but they're obviously good. They do a lot of things really, really well, but they weren't world beaters, and I think they would be a really good team in the West, but in the New England region they just dominate, and that wouldn't happen here. McMurray, next on my list, 4-0. They were kind of my dark horse in the ASC conference this year. Not that I really thought that they could win it, but I thought that they could at least make some noise. And if you're unfamiliar with the ASC, they actually have 2 divisions. They have an East and a West division, and they're in the division with Mary Hardin Baylor. So good team that they have to kind of upset if they want to take it. Their big win of the weekend was Randolph-Macon. They beat them in 4 sets, but it was just really, they went out to Virginia and they won all 4 of their matches. They did what they had to do, and that's why they're on the watch list. Pacific was a team that I really liked going into the season. They dropped a match to University of Wisconsin Stout in 5 sets. A little surprising. I kind of expected a little bit more from Pacific. It's the first weekend, so things happen. But the problem with Pacific is they really don't have the schedule to compensate for slip-ups. The Northwest Conference, if you're not familiar with them, they typically go out the first 2 weeks. They play their out-of-region or out-of-conference matches, and then after the second week, they just stay up in the Northwest. They have no conference tournament. So if you only have one good team out of the Northwest, then it's virtually impossible to get an at-large bid because there's just no way to prove that you're as good as other teams in the region if you don't play an outstanding first 2 weeks. And I've heard a rumor last year that may change next year. They may allow a third week of play out of conference, and that would be tremendous. Pacific Lutheran, also out of the Northwest Conference, they're 4-0. They played a pretty good slate of games out in the Puget Sound tournament. They swept all of their matches. The 2 big wins were Oshkosh and Milliken, and they're one of the best blocking teams in the nation. This was one of my preseason favorites. I got to see them at the Southwestern Regional. They were impressive, and they lost their setter, who was also impressive, but it looks like they've compensated for that. They look like they're running a 6-2, and it looks like they're going great so far. And they draw Colorado College in Colorado this weekend, and that's going to be a tremendous match to watch. If you're lucky enough to find the stream, which you can on this website, just go to the match day on that day and click the link, and you're there. You're welcome. Southwestern's up next. They are at 1-3. They're on here simply because of the name. Southwestern has been in the NCAA tournament. I wrote about it. I think it's something like 14 out of the last 15 years. I'm struggling with them. I don't think, based on just how they play, I've seen all of their matches. Currently, they are not an NCAA tournament team. Can that be changed? Sure. Will they have enough time and enough quality wins to be eligible to get that pool C bid? I just don't know. I just don't know right now. Trinity looks tremendous. I was a little worried about them going in the year, but they ended up getting a senior that came back because she had an extra year of eligibility. She played great this weekend. They've swapped out their libero. It looks like, and the little bit that I watched, she was fabulous. They've got a really tough serving team, just an all-around quality team. This weekend they get UT Dallas. They get I think they play Laverne. They play Claremont Mud Scripps. So they've already got 3 tremendous victories: Adolphus, Wisconsin, Stevensport, and Aurora. All really quality wins. Mary Hardin Baylor's 2-0. In fact, I'll just lump them with UT Dallas. They played the same schedule. They played Heidelberg, and they played another team. I think it was UW Superior. They swept them both. Each team swept both teams, and just a good start. I got to watch a little bit of UT Dallas. They look good. Some more mistakes than I would have liked, but how much is that is jitters? I don't know. Well, we'll just see. They're both. Mary Hardin Baylor's out in California, so they're going to have some great games. I think they're going to draw Cal Lutheran. UT Dallas is going to be down in Trinity, so they're going to get CMS as well as Trinity. Big. And let me talk about that in a second. Before I close out, the last team I have on the list right now is Whittier. They're 1-3. They went over to Emory. They really challenged themselves. They ended up losing, getting swept by Emory. They took Illinois Wesleyan to 5 sets, and then St. Benedict they ended up getting swept by, which was really the surprising result. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had ended that 2-2. Maybe they steal a game from one of from IWU or Emory and they finish 3-1. Wasn't really expecting 1-3. I got to watch some of the video of the games that they played. It looks good. I kind of put in, I think, the musing post that they just need to terminate more, and all teams do. But it was really evident in the matches that I saw, they just had long rallies and they just couldn't win enough points. Circling back, the last thing I want to talk about before I end this podcast, and you're probably already asleep, but the big matchups this week with UT Dallas, Trinity, and CMS. And I want to talk about it in the sense of hosting the regionals. I'm all about at-large bids. I'm all about NCAA selection, and I'm all about, once you get there, how do you get to the Final 8? How do you get to the Elite 8? And one of the ways that really helps is to host the regional. If you can, and then how do they determine the host? Well, it's really the highest ranked team by the West RAC that will fly the fewest number of teams in. So if you've got 5 teams from Texas and 3 from California, the regional is going to be in Texas. If you have 5 in California, 3 in Texas, then it's going to be in California. Now we've got some, you're going to have one out of the Northwest. Well, the Northwest isn't going to host because too many teams have to fly in. Colorado College may be the highest ranked team in the region. They're not hosting. Too many teams to fly in. It's going to be Southern California. It's going to be Texas. One of those two. And so this weekend, we're going to see we're going to be able to rank UT Dallas, Trinity, and Claremont pretty well because they're playing each other. And from that, we should be able to say, hey, if more teams come from this Texas or California, then this is the odds-on favorite to host the regional when it comes November. So we're way early. Things can change. I tracked it last year. I'll track it again this year. And in the end, they threw me a curveball by ranking Southwestern above Trinity. And then of course we had more Texas teams in, so Southwestern got the regional. That's another story, and it's on the website. There's a case study on the West RAC rankings, and I'm still confused how Southwestern got ahead of Trinity, but it was fun. It was fun to go down to Southwestern and watch it. So looks like I'm about 19 minutes in. It went longer, way longer than I thought. Proves that I will talk and talk and talk and talk. But I do appreciate if you've made it through, and leave me a comment. Let me know if this was any good. Let me know if it was horrible, and maybe we'll try it again. Thanks. Bye.